Welcome back. Well, if you are looking for the perfect solution for setting your toilet and dealing with that flange, look no further. I'm here with Alan from Set Right. And Alan, I tell you what, yesterday I was through and you ran me through your products. I am very impressed. I can see in my personal life this is going to take care of a lot of problems that we have that deal with, the not so perfect solution. Tell us a little bit about your company.
Well, Set Right was developed by a builder, which is me. I've been building for 30 years. And we had to solve a problem between the plumbers and the tilemen that install the tile around the toilet flanges, and also eliminate the problems that exist with leaky toilet flanges from improper installation.
So you have seen a whole covey of bad things to overcome, and because of that, you've come up with your different solutions.
Correct. I've seen it for 30 years. I've seen all the problems that exist. I've seen all the products that are on the market. And we had to come up with a product that was actually code approved and universal to be used all over the United States.
If you can, take us through some of your products and some of the solutions they provide.
Well, the main problem is here in the beginning where we have an existing toilet flange and then we've tiled the floor and now the toilet is higher than the flange. What's supposed to happen is a toilet flange is supposed to be installed on top of the finished floor. And then your wax ring would go on, and then your toilet would go on top of that. So what happens, people today with renovation redo the bathroom floors, and now the floors are higher than the flanges. Your choice here is to cut out the floor, cut out the piping, cut out the ceiling below, or jackhammer it if it's concrete, and then redo the piping, which is very costly and expensive. So with our system, we've designed this system to go on top of the existing flange. And it doesn't matter what kind of flange it is. It could be lead, cast iron, PVC. It could be a deteriorated flange with rust and corrosion on it. Our product will solve that problem. Any toilet flange should always be installed on top of the finished floor. We have an example here which shows the finished floor is a wood flooring, and what we've done is we have the toilet flange which is now sitting on top of the finished floor. The reason you want to do that is because when I install the toilet, I'll put a wax ring on top of the existing flange. The toilet will go on top of that. The toilet is supposed to recess into the area inside the flange and not be above it. That makes a permanent seal and an area for the wax to be located on top of the flange. So we're going to solve that problem for all the people that have done it improperly. Now what we do here is we'll show you the problem scenario. We have an existing toilet flange. We've retiled the floor, and now the toilet is about, I'd say, 2 inches higher than the existing flange. Most people would put double wax rings or other spacers with silicone, and we're going to show you the code-approved way to do that. And if you follow me down here, you'll see what we've done is we have an existing flange on the floor. We've now tiled the floor so the floor is higher than the flange. And what we're going to do, our first step would be to install a gasket on top of the flange. You do that if the flange is in good condition. If it's a PVC flange, a metal flange, it doesn't matter, as long as the flange is not deteriorated and it's suitable to be used. After you install the gasket, our next step would be to install a spacer on top of that. What you want to do is select a spacer. We have 4 different size spacers up here. They go from 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and 3/4 inch. You can select any spacer to go on top of your gasket, and you select the one that brings you up close to the finished floor height. After you install the spacer, you'll now go over and you'll install our specially designed extender. We have an extender, it's a yellow extender, which will go down through the inside of the gasket. And as we push it down, it makes a seal, so it's water and gas tight. We push it all the way down until it sits on top of the spacer. At that point, we secure it to the floor with our 410 stainless self-drilling screws, which go down through the flange, through the existing flange, into the floor to make a tight, secure installation. That would be the most common way of doing it on a flange that is in good condition. Now, we also have addressed the problems for a lead bend, cast iron, or a deteriorated flange. If you had a flange that was leaking, it had corrosion on it, or it was made out of lead or cast iron, we can solve that problem. What we do is we change from installing a gasket on top of the flange to installing a standard wax ring. If there's corrosion anywhere inside the flange, what we'll do is pack the corrosion with wax, fill all the voids, install wax rings on top of the flange up to or above the finished floor height. After we install the wax, then we go to the second step, which will be the same as the one on the gasket. We install the spacer. Again, you have the 4 spacers to install, 1/8, 1/4, 1/2, and 3/4. Push the spacer down around the outside of the wax ring until it's fully down, seated on top of the toilet flange. After you do that, we go to install the extender, the yellow extender again, but this time you'll notice on the bottom of the extender, there's a special groove designed in the bottom of the extender in order to receive the wax. As we take this and we push this down into the wax, it will actually go down and compress. It'll compress into that ring that we've designed into our extender. And you'll see a completed unit over here. And this one here is installed on a lead bend. And if I take it out for you, you'll see the bottom is a lead flange on top of a brass ring, fully secured, installed with a wax gasket, our spacer and extender. We'll do the same thing with the screws. We'll use our 410 stainless self-drilling screws to screw it down to the floor, which will go through the brass ring or any standard flange. Now, the only exception to this would be if we installed it on a cast iron flange. We would do the same steps we just described, but this time we'll pre-drill the cast iron with a 3/16 inch drill bit, and our stainless steel screws will self-tap into the cast iron to secure it to the floor. Again, we've designed this so it's water and gas tight, and it's the only code-approved extender on the market. Now, you'll see here we have a cross-section on what it looks like with the wax, the spacer, and the extender installed, and you'll notice inside how that groove that we designed in our extender has been filled with wax and will be trapped in between the 2 flanges for the life of the flange. That provides a gas and watertight solution. And then we also have the spacers that can also be used for underneath the toilet. So our spacers are also designed, if you notice over here, with 4 different spacers, we're able to adjust the height of any toilet flange on new construction. Now what happens is, on new construction, a plumber is going to measure from the back wall out to the center, and he's going to measure his rough dimensions, which is usually 12 to 12.5 inches. He's going to put a dot, and he's going to attempt to cut a hole. After he cuts the hole, that piece of wood with the dot falls through the floor. They no longer have a location where it is. They will try to fit the flange. When the flange doesn't fit, they'll pick up a Sawzall and they'll cut the hole bigger. By the time they're done cutting it, it looks like a football. Now they've eliminated some of the wood that they need to secure the flange. All of our spacers are designed as a layout tool. There's marks on our spacers at 12, 3, 6, and 9. What we do is we lay our spacer on the floor. We now measure the rough for the toilet from the back wall to 3 o'clock on our spacer. We also measure from the back wall to 9 o'clock on our spacer. Now that's our square mark across parallel to the back wall. From the side wall, we'll measure to 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. We'll scribe the inside circle, and when we're done, we have a perfect pattern for a perfect cut every time. Now we cut our hole, and you'll have the perfect cut, and you'll still have your marks around it to show you where the flange is to be installed. So, if we're going to install 1/2 inch wonderboard, 1/4 inch style, which is typical floor installation, we'll select that spacer. So that would be 3/4 of an inch. On the spacer, you'll see that there's a Johnny Bolt indentation at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. It says layout, and it has an arrow on it. You put that back on your marks at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. You take the toilet flange, and you'll take the Johnny Bolt location of the toilet flange and overlay it over the indentation of the spacer. Set the flange down on top. The holes are pre-drilled now, and you'll secure this to the floor. The advantage for the installer here is you never have to drill the tile. Today's market, we're installing porcelain, marble, granite, which means a lot of the floors need to be drilled with a wet diamond drill bit. In order to do that, it costs money and it takes time. So we've designed this now that we have everything pre-drilled. You'll screw this to the floor, and the tile man will tile around the outside and never have to worry about cracked tiles on installation. Now the next thing that this spacer system will do for you is every one of our spacers are designed to snap in half. So if I have a flange and I go to your house and I tear out your bathroom floor and the flange is floating in the air, what I'll do is I'll take a spacer, I'll snap the spacer in half, slide it underneath from the side, screw it to the floor, and let the tile man tile around the outside. Now the last thing that the spacers are going to do for you, if I had a tile here and I was a tile man installing the floor, I would overlay the tile on top of the existing flange that I just installed. I take one of my spacers, I'd overlay that over the top, and now I have a tile layout tool for the perfect cut. I'll scribe that mark, I'll go to my wet soil once, and I'll have the perfect cut every time. Bill, while we're here, there's a couple other points I'd like to show you. Is one that we have designed in our spacer system, that there is a special location on here, which we said earlier, at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, where you'll see there's an arrow and it says layout. When this is properly installed, you'll see this location as we show down here at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. And that reason is for a couple purposes. One, it shows the Johnny bolt location. When we install the extender over the top, you'll see how everything lines up. And at the same time, I know it may be hard to see, I'll show you here. If you could see inside, you'll see there's a line inside the Johnny bolt slot. That line is designed there as a safety, just in case somebody down the road decides that they want to change the height of the floor and remove the spacer. If you install a flat screwdriver and you put it on that line and hit it with a hammer, the spacer will snap in half, making it easy to remove the spacer and change it to a different size. So this helps you in the future if you want to change your floor height due to a change in tile. Now, there's one other thing that it does which is important to people that are working on toilets. If I have a toilet, and let's say the toilet flange is out of level, and we're going to tile the floor, and our new floor is going to be perfectly level, and the floor is a little bit higher than the flange. What we'll do to solve this problem is we'll take one of the spacers, flip it upside down, whatever spacer we need to get to the finished floor height. We'll use a belt sander and we'll sand the spacer down until it's level. Then we flip it back over, and now when you flip it over, it will sit level on top of the out of level flange. Then when we install the extender on top, the extender will now be sitting perfectly level with the tile floor. That allows you to have a non-leak installation. Okay, you set your Johnny bolts and set your toilet. And one other important thing to remember when you set a toilet, it's very important not to over tighten the Johnny bolts, and make sure you grout the toilet to the floor so it's fully supported by the grout. That'll help you from rocking in toilets when people sit on them.
Well, Alan, I have to tell you, this is just amazing. So many different solutions provided here. And with that said, right now I know you have to have the attention of all of our viewers out there. What's the best way for them to learn more about Set Right product?
The best way to learn about it would be to go to the website, which is at www.setright.com. It's SET-right, RITE.com.
Easy enough. Well, Alan, thank you so much for being on.